This is Harsh Rules. I'm Ben Harsh, and today we're going to take a look at the new Conflict of Heroes Storms of Steel 3rd Edition by Academy Games. So we have the new component trays with the dice. So there's two 6-sided dice, and this are 10-sided dice, but they only look like 10-sided dice. They're actually custom dice, and these are called the spent dice. We'll take a closer look at those in just a moment. Here we have the cards and the stress markers. And then here we have an empty tray, an extra empty tray. So the idea is that you can have one tray for one player, another tray for another player, and then a third tray which you could just keep the cards in. But this is the way it was packed. So I'll put it together and you can get a better idea how that works. So here we have the mission book and the rule book. So there are 16 missions in this book. So let me set this up here. We'll flip through some of them. So here it shows kind of how the missions are laid out. So here's the first mission that you start at. It's a training mission. Now, what's really neat about this mission book is that you also have historical information on the game you're playing. So one of my pet peeves with these games is that sometimes you'll get a game and you may not, as a player, know a lot about the history of the game you're playing. So you have to go to Google, you have to research everything on your own. Academy Games provides this, so even if I have a player that I don't know anything about World War II or I don't know that much, they can read this article, which basically hits all the high points of Kursk. So you can go through and you learn what happened, how history played out, and it gives you a nice foundation so that when you play the missions, people are brought up to speed and they can play the game without being confused as to who the players are and what's going on. Provides a lot of good context for the game. There are a lot of missions in this. Tanks. You don't say. Lucci. Lucci Part 2. Battle for Cherkasskoye, I guess. I'm not good at pronouncing Russian. Not much for the Russian language, unfortunately. So yeah, you get a total of 16 missions with this game. Now, what's really fantastic, this rulebook is one of the best I've read. So definitely rulebook of 2019 right here, even though I think it was actually written in 2018, but never mind. So lots of pictures, okay? So it shows you the components, and it's streamlined so that you can quickly start setting up the game. And then it shows you how to set up the first mission, which is the Courier's Satchel. It gives you an overview, and then there's a little note here for returning players. Now, this is what I want to show you that's really great about this rulebook. So, the rulebook is structured in coordinated with the mission book. So you will read, there's like 39 pages in this rule book, you will read through the first 18 pages and then you are ready to play mission 1 and 2. Okay? So really you only have to read these 18 pages, and you see most of the pages have tons of pictures and examples and things that kind of break things up and make it easier to learn. Lots of color coding. Like, they've really done a great job working through to make sure that you understand and you have all the help you need to learn this game. But the great thing is the theory, as I'm going to assume, I haven't talked to Uwe about it, but the theory around this is that you can get this game and get playing as soon as possible. So 18 pages, and you're playing mission 1 and 2. And then, once you get up to speed and play that, you just need to read a few more pages and you can play mission 3 and 4. And then a few more pages, 5 and 6, and so on, until you get to the end where you can play everything else. This is such a big deal, in my opinion, because I've read so many books recently where you've got to absorb 40 pages of content and then, basically have to take notes and figure out how to do it and fool around with the components to learn the game. This is like structured, so all the critical stuff is up front, and then if you play it and you love it, then you want to add a little few more items. You go to the next section and the next section, and it's structured that way. I'm not going to name any names of certain companies that do books, but a lot of times the order is completely flipped, where it's the front of the book will talk about things that do not have any context for later in the game. So you actually have to read backwards to the front to understand how the game is structured. This is, obviously a lot of care has been taken to make sure that this game is designed so that when you, as a new player, you don't have to know anything about a game. You don't have to have friends that are wargamers. You can pick up this book and read just what you need to read to get playing. And then as you advance through these missions, which you can think of as levels, and they layer in more concepts, you then have those pages that are just associated with the added elements of those missions. So fantastic job. So let's take a look at this and I'll show you what I mean here. If I can I'm grabbing the wrong page. So as you can see, although there's 18 pages to learn in the first chunk of the book, you have tons of pictures. Here's just the components that you have in the game, and it identifies them. Then it just walks you through setup, the units, the round sequence, and just really great structure. Goes through the caps. So here's the new system that really the 3rd edition is about, and we'll talk about that a little later. Just fantastic rules. See, like a tank takes up most of the thing. You really don't have that many pages to read. And it gives you lots of examples. We'll skip ahead here. So then once you read through this stuff, then there is your note. You're now ready to play missions 1 and 2. That's it. You can just focus on these pages. You don't have to worry about something buried at the back or in another rule book. This is the only thing you need to focus on until you get those first 2 missions down. This is great. And then after that, when you're ready for more, you just have a couple more pages to read, and you're then ready to play missions 3 and 4. So really good stuff. This is like one of the best rule books I've read in a long time. So now other components here, we have there's a whole bunch of new tracks for the game. Whoop. So you have a victory track, and then you have these player tracks. And these include, here's your usual, the mission round, the victory point track, and then each player gets one of these command tracks. So you have your command action points here, and then this 3rd edition of the game does not have the action point track. Instead, it uses the action costs with those spent dice that we see. So depending on the cost of your action, you're going to roll the dice and it will determine whether or not your unit gets spent. So we'll look at that a little bit later. That's what really speeds up this game. That's kind of the big change. But if you think about it, it's a smart change. It's not really like a new convoluted change. It's meant to streamline and speed up the game. So let's move that out. This, of course, I took. Oh, here we go. So we have some great player aids that give you the information you need. They are one-sided, so you can just lay them out and check out what's going on. Let's see if we can get it so you can see them both. So you could just lay them both out on your table, and you have all the reference to the terrain and everything you need to know on here for reference. And then this is just the baggie, which has a Academy Games catalog, which are always fun to read. And then here we have the boards, and these are all wrapped in plastic, but they are extremely detailed and gorgeous. And these are the we'll take those out of the plastic a little later. The unit markers, all those tanks and units to use. Here's the other ones. And all the chits you need for the status. See, here's the back side. You can see all the colors on those. That's for when you're assigning what happens to troops when they're hit and things. So good stuff. So I'm going to punch this and set it up, and then we will take a look at what the game looks like when everything's in the right spot. So see you in a minute. Okay, we're back. So I punched out the game and set it up for the first scenario, the Courier's Satchel. So just off screen, here's the tray set up. So each of these, it's hard to see, each of these have a number. So you put them in the tray in the order, so you can just use it like a file card system and go through it to find the ones you need. Okay? So there's that. And then over here I've got some of the other markers. I haven't quite figured out the optimum way to get these stored yet. But when you order, that's like I've got 20 per row here. So 1 through 20, 21 through 40, 41 through 60, 61 through 80, and so on. So this is, once you put the top on, it becomes very easy to store, to keep things organized. So if the scenario just calls, like this one I think calls for 10 and 11. So we just have to grab 10, 11, and 19 and 20. Grab those out. When you're done, you put them back. But it makes it really easy to find, because there's a lot of these markers, to find the ones you need. And then I have a dice in here, and I have some stress markers and whatnot. All right, so that's kind of set up how the trays work. The card tray is a little bit different design. So the cards, here's the deck, and then you have weapon cards, and you have veteran cards that you can put into play as well. And here I've got the tokens set up, or the markers set up for when a unit's hit. This is the soft target or infantry one, and this is the hard target for vehicles, or tanks mostly. For this particular scenario, I just need these guys. So you can place them face down using the on the table using the marker, or put this down for just a second. You can just, I use a cup sometimes, just dump them in the cup. And then you can just blind draw them out of there as well. So that's another way you can do that. Okay, so I've zoomed in on the new tracks and I've placed 2 units. We have a rifle unit and a 82 millimeter mortar unit for our little example, just to show you kind of how the new system works. The old system would work like this. So you would have an action point. You can still use the track, you just need to put it on the command action point track instead. So each unit started with 7 points, and then you had a choice. So this is the attack cost, and this is the move cost. So you see that, you know, there's a crew and there's equipment. So attack cost is 3, a little bit less, but the movement points is a lot. Movement cost is a lot more. Let's say we want to move this unit 1 point. So you'd grab this guy and move it down 1. You'd take your action, and then this unit would be activated through your round until it became spent. And it became spent either in one of 2 ways, just to summarize. So either spend all the points and it becomes spent because it doesn't have any points left to take action, or if you shift to a different unit, you can sacrifice all the points to shift, and then the unit becomes spent and flipped over like that. Okay? So the new system is different from that, and you use the spent track. This unit we want to move, it's a cost of 1. We move the unit, and then we need to check to see if the unit became spent after that. Cost is 1. It's a 20% chance. So you're going to use this 10-sided dice, but this isn't a normal 10-sided dice. So it does not go from 1 to 10. There are numbers duplicated. So there's a 3 here, and then you'll notice there's a 3 over here, right? So I'll just do a roll to keep this in frame. It's a 2. So just barely it went above. So after the unit moves, it's still fresh. Okay? Then what you will do, because that unit moved, is place a stress marker on it. So next time, if the other player moved and then I wanted to move this unit, I would then add a +1 to the chart. So if I want to move again, it's a cost of 1 plus the unit's already stressed, so it now becomes 2. So the advantage of this system over the old system is, well, as this speeds things up, right? You're not sitting here doing, point accounting to figure out how many points are left for the unit like you did in the old system. But the big advantage is that, let's say something happens to this unit on another place on the map, okay? I don't need to do shifting anymore where I'm stuck with this unit until either I sacrifice my action points or I spend command action points to use this unit. I can just automatically go to this unit and then see if it's spent or not. So that is a big change, because previously you get trapped trying to work with this unit because you've got it activated, and then you had to make a tough choice, because the way that the game was designed was, from a commander's viewpoint, you can only focus on one thing at a time. So the system, a lot more flexible for allowing you to move around the battlefield and make those kind of decisions. So another new feature of this system is that players can spend command action points to alter the action cost. Let's look at this unit here. This is our Russian rifle unit. Let's say they want to attack, but they're already stressed. So it's 4 plus 1. So the action cost is actually 5 on this. Okay? So they conduct their attack, and then you need to see if they're going to become spent. And it's like an 80% chance. What you can do is spend a cap, or as many caps as you want, to alter that. So instead of a 5, it would now be a 4. So you would take the dice and roll it, try to keep it in frame. A 3. So that failed anyway. So the unit would then become spent. Okay. So that's my first look at Storms of Steel, the 3rd edition by Academy Games. Even though the rules are so simple, I probably will do a tutorial for this game in the future. However, don't wait for me. Like I said, this is one of the best rule books I've read all year. It's very, straightforward and structured to help new players learn how to play. So go ahead and grab yourself a copy and start playing. If you found this video helpful, please give me a like and share with your friends. To be the first notified when the next episode of Harsh Rules becomes available, please hit the bell icon for notifications. And as always, this is Ben Harsh for Harsh Rules. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.